This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
I can't see anything. What's up, everyone? Happy Thursday to you. Big game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily coming at you right now. Bombers, Lions tonight at Princess Auto Stadium. An absolutely glorious Manitoba summer day. No better place to be than the park tonight to see if the Bombers can win as a very rare home underdog at Princess Auto Stadium. But this is not the not a season that anyone expected, with the Bombers being at 2-6 right now, beginning this big home and home against the number one team in the West. We are going to have John Hodge tee this one up and the rest of the week in the Canadian Football League a little later on. And our buddy Ken Wiebe joining us today. Ken has actually been doing a little bit of Bomber work as well. So we'll talk some Bombers, we'll talk some Jets with him. And a real treat coming up in about 20 minutes or so, right off the bat. We are going to be going to Paris and welcoming in Canadian silver medalist from the Rugby Sevens women's team, Carolyn Crossley. Really looking forward to that. I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about that amazing Rugby Sevens competition and the run that team went on. So looking forward to getting a few minutes with Carolyn to talk about, the road to Paris, the tournament, those huge wins as big underdogs against France and Australia, playing the New Zealand team so tight in the gold medal game. And I'm also interested in what Olympians do in Paris once they get their hardware and their competition is done. So we're going to have that coming up a little bit later on today. Don't forget, new edition of CFL 110 is up right now. Might be some great pregame listening tonight after Winnipeg Sports Talk on your way to Princess Auto Stadium for the game. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, of course, CFL 110 is up. It is brought to you by Garage Living Winnipeg. Give our pal Pat Kanuga a ring at 999-1234 if you want more information on how you can totally revolutionize a garage of yours. Of course, our friends at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Rollies Transfer, Manitoba Battery, Consolidated Supply, Little Brown Jug, Wallace & Wallace, Canadian Club, F Apparel, the Beer Can, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, the Goldeyes, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend. We will get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. All right, a little later than expected, but we are live. Michael Remis joins me now. What is up?
I got the Olympics on, Olympic fever in my household today. Gymnastics all-around final. Enjoying the nice weather. Also counting down to the Bombers. A lot of questions going to be answered. Will they be about this team as they head into the bye against the BC Lions coming off a bye, and the Bombers has on a very short week after playing on a Thursday when they last played Saturday. They are big underdogs. Open at 3.5, now 5.5 for BC, their favorites. So I'm feeling good,
5?
though.
I'm seeing 4.5 right now.
I think Cool Bet.
I hadn't seen 5.
I think Cool Bet. Okay, I thought it was 5.5 when I looked before, but yeah, 4.5 now.
This is this is quite the predicament the Bombers find themselves in. If they'd won a couple of those games and were 4-4, you'd come into this game going, well, you'd like to have it, but when you look at 18 games, you look at the schedule, BC coming off the bye, the Bombers with that short turnaround and just one closed practice this week, probably the toughest spot on their entire schedule. Well, guess what? No one feels sorry for the Bombers outside of Winnipeg, and they're going to have to find a way to win one of these games, preferably two, to avoid being, potentially 2-8 in the middle of August. Zach Collaros, I thought Zach actually had a real strong game for the most part last week against Toronto. But Remis, the question we've been talking about, we had that great segment yesterday with Ben Grant, is just how much pressure Zach has been under, even when he's been completing his passes. I mean, the 5 sacks last week were very, very impactful. And as we broke it down yesterday, 4 of those 5 sacks were coming, without any blitzing, with just 3 or 4 man fronts. And compounding it is the fact that Patty Neufeld was hurt. Now, Patty had a real rough game. I think he was gutting through it last week because they needed him. But he's on the 6th game right now. You move in Kendall Randolph into that spot. Hopefully he's ready to go tonight. And, of course, Drew Olatarski's out. We do get a chance to see Lucky Whitehead for the first time. And I'll be honest, my expectations or hopes for Lucky are muted. I think, he's 32 years old. Very clearly had been with the team for a few weeks on the practice roster, and they thought they had better options. But at this point, especially with Wolotarski being out, it's time for somebody to step up. And this is a big chance for Whitehead, especially going up against his old team, to show that he can be an impact player. Hopefully he can help the offensive side of the football, but maybe special teams as well, as the Bombers still wait for something to come out of that return game that's been pretty pedestrian all season long.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we're going to see from Lucky Whitehead, as he hasn't played at all this year. He's kind of a different receiver than Wolotarski. Wolotarski's more of a possession guy, reliable. Lucky's a downfield target, but you hope that he can come in and produce. It's funny, I was looking at the stats on the season for receiving yards. I would have never guessed Ontario Wilson, 5th in the league right now for receiving. And it just shows you how much he has emerged as a deep threat. I imagine we'll see more of him. Nick Dembski, you'll see him hold on to the ball, and we'll see some type of different play calling to get around this heavy pressure if we see that again from BC. I think a lot of focus is going to be on the O-line, how much time Zach has to throw, and the type of plays they're trying to do to compensate for that. You see maybe a couple more screen passes or something quick. We'll have to see how the offense looks. But they were fine moving the ball. It was just holding on to the ball last game that was the problem. Turnovers. Zach did have the 1 interception. That was like a double deflection caught by the guy who wasn't even covering the receiver who he was throwing to. But Brady fumbling. Dembski now a couple games in a row. Not ideal. If you hold on to the ball, I thought they moved the ball well last time they played BC too. So we'll have to see how this goes. Big test tonight. They need a win, but they're really behind it here, I think.
It is a tough and very unfamiliar situation for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and their fans. We'll hear from Zach Collaros in just a minute. Right off the bat, we're seeing it in the chat nonstop. My Twitter has exploded over the last 90 minutes or so. Great night at the Goldeyes game last evening. Nice win for the Fish. Absolutely gorgeous night. I don't know whether we'll get a better night for baseball. It was 26, 27, little bit of a breeze, perfect night. The Goldeyes were winners last night, and apparently I was too. There we are. Look who is the Dairy Farmers of Manitoba, Goldeyes. Fan of the game last night, holding his WST Cool Bet koozie with a little brown jug generic in it, cheering one of the back-to-back home runs that the Fish put over the line. I think that was after Dason Crows went deep in, I believe, the 6th inning last night. So paparazzi everywhere, Remis.
Do you have 2 of those jerseys? And note that you're wearing the same thing today on the show that you wore.
I turned it around. I just grabbed it for the game last night, and then I'm like, you know what? It was good vibes last night for the Goldeyes. Wear it for the show today. I'll wear my Bomber stuff to the game, but I just wanted to keep the good vibes. I wanted to make sure people recognized me as fan of the game today on the program if they weren't aware when they saw that.
That's all. You got any prize there? I see Dairy Farmers of Manitoba is the sponsor of that post. Did they send you any milk or anything?
I don't. You know what? I'll have to inquire. I'll have to inquire with my friend Andrew Collier, who threw that out. It was a heck of a night last night. Got a chance he actually bumped into our pal Pat Kanuga from Garage Living Winnipeg. Pat was there, got a chance to meet his wife. And our old pal, Bakes Takes, Matt Baker. It's kind of funny. The Lions have had 2 Thursday games this year. Last time I took Dusty out to the game. Yesterday I was with a couple friends, but the Lions crew loves the Goldeyes games, and they've spent the game the night before the last 2 times there. So it was good to see Bakes. I hope he had a great time last night. Hoping it doesn't have quite as good of a time tonight at the football game, knowing what side of the field that he's going to be on. You know, Remis, I think back to the 2 home games last year against BC. And the first game, BC came in and absolutely steamrolled the Bombers, and that was a real wake-up call for the club. Now, they didn't lose a home game after that. But they had a game at a very similar time. I believe it was the same thing going into August long weekend, where the Bombers were maybe a very short favorite, or it was close to a pick-em. Bottom line was that BC was sort of the team everybody was talking about. They were on top of the division. And the Bombers came back with a 50-14 victory. I mean, a real statement game for Winnipeg that I think they just, cruised after that, certainly at home, with that great record. Like, I don't expect anything like that tonight. I mean, if the Bombers' offense can put up 30-35, everyone would be pleased. And to be honest, with what Vernon Adams is going to do, I think that is what it's going to take to win this football game. But I do wonder about some of the veteran guys, if they can really lean on that win last year and what they were able to do when a lot of people were expecting different. They need to find a way to get to their best. We've talked a lot this week about beating themselves. It goes without saying they cannot turn the football over. And hopefully the defense that played so well in these last couple of games can continue to do that. Because if there was one game where the defense really got sliced and diced, it was the BC game earlier this year. And even though there was only 24 points put up on the board, more than 500 yards of offense led by Vernon Adams, who has been, putting them up at a record pace so far this year.
Yeah, Vernon Adams has been really good, and he's shown flashes the last couple of years that he is the number 1 quarterback in this league. But he's also shown flashes that, he's got a bit of fumbleitis sometimes. He could turn the ball over. And you look at the game before the bye where they lost 25-24 to Calgary, a team that the Bombers have had, 2 close games. They won the season series. And the interceptions came for Vernon Adams in that game. He had 2, only threw for 192 yards. Not the Vernon Adams that we've seen throw for, over 300. And that game last year that was here where they won 50-14, he was hurt. It was Dane Evans in at quarterback. And we'll see BC, they're getting some reinforcements. Keon Hatcher, who's been out all year, and I was watching Dusty's videos, like as if, BC needed more weapons. They already have Justin McInnes leading the league in receiving yards, and Alex Hollins, who's top 5 as well. So again, I think this is a really tough test. The Bombers on a short week against a team coming off a bye who's already top in the league. They're going to have to try to, force Vernon Adams to make mistakes, turn the ball over, and their defense, was good last week, but that was against, Dukes, who got replaced, and Nick Arbuckle, who's been a backup for a long time. Vernon Adams, he's an MOP candidate. I would be pretty nervous here, if you're cheering for the Bombers.
I am. I mean, I'll be straight. This is, as I said, we don't need to belabor the point. The schedule working against them, injuries working against them, opponent very, very good, but this is why they play the games, folks. And listen, they've lost some games where they should win earlier this year. They now need to pull out a win in a game that, by a lot of other factors, you would think that maybe they would lose. Let's hear what Zach Collaros had to say. He spoke yesterday after practice, and a lot of the talk around this very short week of practice is on, where this offense is going into tonight. Here's Zach on the state of the offense heading into kickoff this evening.
I think we did some things well, and the things that you really need to be focused on, not well in that game, obviously. We got to score more touchdowns. That's not a mystery. And we got to protect the football better. And again, that's not a mystery either. So we're obviously not where we want to be. You never really are. no matter how well things are going, but things haven't been going that well. And, we need to continue to believe in our process, trust in the plan, study, work, all those things, and then take it to the game. So.
The DT, of course, our pal Derek Taylor with 680 CGOB was there, and he asked Zach if they can take some of the positives out of last week into this week, because they did move the ball really well. They put up 400 yards. It was just the turnovers that killed them.
On one level, this is going to sound dumb, but it felt like the best game in 3 phases, ... except for the turnovers. As a football player, do you separate those things?
You still feel the same way afterward. When you watch the tape, you are able to reflect on each play, investigate each play and figure out what you can do better. There was probably a few more positive plays, but not enough. So I understand where you're coming from there. We did do some things well, but even on the plays you do things well, there's always things you can clean up. So I'm kind of wired that way, where I look at it from that standpoint. So
definitely a lot to clean up coming out of last night's game. One guy that didn't put it on the ground because he hasn't been in the lineup yet is Lucky Whitehead, but Lucky makes his official return to the Blue Bomber lineup tonight against his old team, the BC Lions. Here's what Zach had to say about getting Lucky into the onto the squad tonight.
Lucky's an experienced player in this league. He's played a lot of snaps at a high level. Obviously, he's been here before, so he's familiar with some of the things that we do. Things have changed since he was here in 19, but he's done a good job since he's been here of trying to learn as fast as he can of different terminology, different concepts that we've installed since, different ways to attack in the run game, etc. I think he brings speed. Obviously, everybody knows how fast Lucky is. And I think with that, really good energy to the field and obviously the locker room too. Everybody loves Lucky.
All right, so Lucky's going to be back. We'll see what impact he can make on offense and potentially on special teams tonight if he gets any opportunities. For Zach and the offense, they're going up against a BC defense. Number 8 spoke about the challenge of the guys they're going to face on the other side of the line of scrimmage this evening.
I think Ryan does a good job of formulating a good plan. Every time we play him, whether it's in our big sets or our 5 receiver sets, they always are dialed into what we do well and try to make us play a different way. So I think they do a good job of that. I think their front 4 is excellent, and they rotate a lot of guys. They do a really good job of keeping those guys fresh. I think the backers they run and they tackle extremely well, and when you play a team who plays match, not exclusively, but they play it quite a bit. You obviously have to be a team that communicates at an exceptionally high level, and that's a credit to Ryan and obviously all those guys who have been there for a while. So I think they do a lot of things really well, but like a lot of teams, I think with their front 4, being able to get pressure on the quarterback is something they lean on, and those guys do a really good job of it.
All right, so there's Zach Collaros. We got a little bit more Zach and the coach a little bit later on today on the program. Hey, I mentioned CFL 110, which is live right now, is brought to you by our friends at Garage Living Winnipeg. I mentioned I saw Pat at the Goldeyes game last night, and he asked me if I needed a lift. I said, I'm good. I'm getting an Uber. He said, no. Do I need a car hoist? In addition to organizing your garage from top to bottom, Garage Living sells hoists for your classic or special interest vehicle. Pat actually just came back from the Okanagan where he visited the distributor of Performance Hoists to check out the operation to see all their products. Garage Living Winnipeg can set you up with a single or double hoist. If you've got a 10-foot ceiling, it automatically doubles your parking space. They also have smaller hoists for your motorcycle or snowmobile. So for all you sled heads out there, how great would it be to have a hoist to work on your machine instead of crawling around on the floor this winter? Give Pat a call if you need a lift or want more information on a garage consultation to revolutionize your space. 204-999-1234 or visit their website at garageliving.com where you can see everything else they do for an extreme garage makeover or a minor one. Flooring, cabinets, and other storage solutions. 999-1234. That's Pat for a free in-garage consultation. Garage Living Winnipeg, garages made for living. Shout out to our friends at Rolly's Transfer. I had a great chat with Ryan. They are busy right now, as it's moving season. And, of course, they have an extensive logistics business that takes them around the province on a daily basis, which, of course, whether you're moving in the city or in southern Manitoba, gives you flexible routes and timing and great rates. Now, if you have a move, why not get the white glove treatment from the best and the most trusted name in moving for over 60 years, family owned and operated in Rolly's Transfer. Check out their new website at rollies.com, and you can see right up at the top right, there's a request an estimate or request a quote feature. Click on that. Let them know when and where you're moving, when you need to move it, and also let them know that you're a WST listener, because not only will you get the best quote in town, you'll get a little extra discount if you use the promo code WST on moving services and moving supplies. So for your next move, make it Rollies, the most trusted name for over 60 years in moving here in Manitoba. Use the promo code WST and get a special deal, and get moving and get as much of the stress out of the move thanks to our pals at Rollies Transfer. The gang at Consolidated Supply has so much going on there that many of our customers and many of our listeners have popped by there for one thing and ended up coming back for others. Listen, we've had a lot of rain earlier this summer, and it certainly stressed a lot of properties. Consolidated Supply are the irrigation specialists with the leaders in irrigation systems and solutions. But they've also got artificial turf. Golf Carts is the exclusive club cart dealer in Manitoba with great new carts, used carts, as well as all sorts of features to trick yours out if you want to take your golf cart to the next level. But other great options for your property, including hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchens, not to mention they're the leaders in small engine parts and repair. Pop by Consolidated Supply, see them at their showroom, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, and find out more online at cte.ca. And while everyone is thinking about the beautiful weather and getting away on the weekend to max out their summer fun, whether you're camping, you're boating, whether you're on ATVs, you got to have batteries, folks. And Manitoba Battery is the spot where you can shop local, keep your money in the community, and get the best prices in town, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores. Pop by and see them on Logan Avenue, their original location, or their new location on Dover Court. And hey, we know how busy you are. How about this? Best service in town. They'll deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere in the city of Winnipeg with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. Pop by and see them today, just in time for the weekend, or check them out online at manitobabattery.com. All right, I'm really looking forward to this. If you have been with us throughout the week, you know that I, like many Canadians, are new big fans of rugby sevens. To me, one of the breakout sports of the entire Olympics, something that many Canadians probably weren't too familiar with, but once they started watching it, they were hooked. And a big part of getting hooked was watching the performance of our incredible women's team, who shocked France, shocked Australia, and went all the way to the gold medal game, going toe-to-toe with New Zealand. And I think, if I'm correct, we now welcome in one of the stars of the Canadian team and now Olympic silver medalist of rugby sevens from Team Canada, Carolyn Crossley from Paris. Carolyn, thanks so much for doing this. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah. Thanks for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. First off, congratulations. I mean, so captivating, so much fun to watch you guys do what you did. How are you feeling now after getting that medal around your neck?
I honestly don't think it's sunk in yet. It was a pretty surreal moment, and I think it'll take probably months to fully like believe it.
You know, I'm so interested about the sport and the team and the athletes. I mean, you know, rugby is a sport with incredible history, but rugby sevens is really new. I mean, if you could give us a little bit of your background on where you grew up, how you got into rugby, and the transition into being part of this silver medal winning team.
Yeah, I grew up in Victoria, BC, and I actually started from a pretty young age in middle school. I just had a friend who didn't want to be the only girl on the team, so I joined her, and it took off pretty quickly from there. The national team's actually centralized in Victoria, so I got picked up from the national team at a young age, and the rest is history.
And you guys made history here in Paris so far. What were your expectations going into the tournament? Was a medal realistic for you guys? I mean, as far as when you were when you got there, I mean, obviously you want to do as best as you can, but I'm just wondering how realistic the incredible feats that you guys did were maybe amongst that group when you got there.
Yeah, we came in ranked pretty low, I think around 9th. But based on our past season, I think that the medal was realistic. We had like 3 top 4 finishes, and we got a bronze medal in our home tournament in Vancouver. So I think we were all really hopeful to be on the podium. I just don't know if we truly believed that we were going to be in that gold medal final.
Well, I mean, I just remember the fight you guys showed in that France game. I mean, to play in that venue against the host team, one of the top teams in the world, to do it. I mean, how galvanizing was that moving into the Australia game to win on the road against such a great squad?
Yeah, it was, I mean, both games were just such amazing resilience and grit from our team to get through them. And I think the France one was really special because it was against the host nation, and it was a packed stadium with like 65,000 people, and we were getting booed as we came out. But it was just like, the atmosphere was electric, and I think it really fueled us to come out with the win.
You know what I mean? We were kind of looking. I mean, just on the sites. I mean, you guys were about a 5 or a 6-1 underdog in that France game, and then you move on into the semifinals with the opportunity to play for gold against another one of the world powers in Australia, and you were even in a longer shot on that. That Australia game was incredible because you were down 12-0, and I think about Charity Williams with that run right at the end of the first half, going, I don't know how long, 90 meters or so to Pater, getting in. What did that do to you guys going into halftime, knowing that you were right back in it with that late try? It seemed like there was so much momentum for your squad that you just took and ran with in the second half.
Yeah, I think that try was absolutely critical to our win. I think it could have been a different game if we didn't get that momentum before half. It really set us up to be able to really believe that we were still in this game and we could win it. So it was a really amazing play by Charity.
You turn this thing around and get it. What's it like coming back in a game? And these games are so short and so tight. I mean, every second counts. You flip the score and then are holding on at the end. I mean, what do you remember about the final minute of that Australia game, knowing that you were able to get it done and then play for gold?
It was honestly the last couple minutes were kind of, had been subbed off by that point. So the watching from the sideline was pretty excruciating. It was like, you're just in a complete state of like the highest possible stress. And you're right, it is such a short game and things change so quickly. So I think when they got that second penalty and we knew that the game was over, it was just like the biggest flood of relief.
It looked like quite a celebration there. And the craziest thing about it is, I think for most of us that are usually watching a hockey game or a football game, knowing the play, and then you play a couple days later, you guys had the big celebration, but I mean, you were right back out there playing for gold in a matter of hours later. And that's such a unique part of your sport.
Yeah, I think that's like the biggest challenge in sevens is the emotional and mental toll it takes of being so high, so low, so high, so low, and having to come back in a couple hours and reset your focus. But we're pretty used to it. We had about 8 tournaments this year to prepare. So yeah, but it definitely is a challenging aspect of the sport.
What will you take away and what will you remember about the gold medal game? Because, I mean, you're going up against a team that maybe you can put into, for folks that aren't familiar with rugby, just how dominant that New Zealand program has been for so long. It really seems like they are the standards. And, I mean, you guys just went toe-to-toe with them right till the end.
Yeah, it was a heartbreaking loss for sure. It's hard to look back on those little moments because, if I had just done this differently, maybe it would be a different game. But, that's just the way sevens is. And we had a really great performance, and I'm really proud of what we did out there.
How long do you get over the disappointment of not winning that particular match to sitting there with your teammates going, holy smokes, we just went to the Olympic Games and won a silver medal for Canada?
I think it goes back and forth. Like there's times when I'm thinking about the game and I feel that disappointment, and I go back to just like the elation of having gotten the silver medal. And I think it's just kind of right now it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster. It's all over the map.
What stands out about your team and your teammates, and what will you take away from this experience from the Olympics, just as far as that team unit? Because it seems like you've got a real special group of women in that dressing room.
We do. I think we have such an amazing team culture. I've never been a part of a team like this. I've never felt so connected to a group of individuals and so supported. So it's results aside, just this year being able to build this team has been like the most fulfilling experience of my life, probably.
Carolyn Crossley, Olympic silver medalist from the Team Canada Rugby Sevens, joining us live from Paris right now as we dive full into the Olympic Games. Carolyn, what's the season like for you? Like for you and your teammates? I mean, we see you at this big, at the Olympic Games. You're training and playing all year round. How does the season work, and where are you and your teammates playing, for the other 11 months of the year when you're not involved in the Olympic Games?
Yeah, the season runs from about December until June. I think we had 8 World Series stops this year, and then kind of multi-sport games fall in between that. So we had Pan Am's earlier in the year, but the World Series is all over. We go Dubai, Cape Town, Australia, Vancouver, LA, Singapore, Hong Kong, and then we ended in Madrid this year. So it's a ton of travel. It's a grueling season, but it's also a really huge honor to be able to represent our country.
What's been the reaction from Canadians about the squad for you and your teammates since you were able to get onto the podium? How's the feedback been for you?
It's been so positive. I think we're all surprised by how many Canadians connected with our sport and with our story, and how many people that we reached.
What do you think this can do for rugby and rugby sevens moving forward? Because the sport itself, the sevens, is still new. I mean, there's a lot of people that are seeing it for the first time anytime it's on their TV.
Yeah, I think definitely in Canada, it's like not one of our biggest sports, but I hope that it just provides more opportunity for kids to get into the sport younger and just find the love for the game.
Hey, I have to ask you about one of your teammates. We saw a lot of Piper Logan, who had some very big scores for the team. How fast is she? What's it like chasing her around in practice?
It's exhausting. I've been burned by her too many times to count. And we'll just say I'm so grateful that she's on my team and I don't have to play against her.
Well, listen, there were so many great stars on that. Before we go, Carolyn, I mean, we watched what you and your teammates did on the pitch, winning that silver medal. What happens for Olympians like yourself after you win the silver medal? I mean, tell us about the medal ceremonies, but what do you guys do now? Are you able to take part in a bunch of the other events? How much longer are you in Paris? I mean, once your competition is done, you've had such a great result. What's next for you and the rest of your Olympian silver medalists?
Yeah, we're actually only allowed to stay in the village for about 2 days after our event. So it's been honestly just a whirlwind of media and seeing family and friends and trying to get packed up and our rooms cleaned and our bags sorted. It's been nonstop. But a lot of us are able to travel afterwards and kind of do our own thing. So it really happens all so fast. But we're going for one final team dinner tonight. So that will be nice. And yeah.
Have you gotten a chance to see any of the other Olympic events?
Not in person, not yet. It's just been like so busy. I did not imagine that it would be this packed. But hopefully we'll get to see some in the next few days.
I'll tell you what, the reason why you're busy is because you guys did so incredibly well. Congratulations again on just an inspiring run, I think, for Canadians. I'll tell you what, I can't wait the next time we have the opportunity to see you and your teammates play in Rugby Sevens action. And just wishing you a well-earned silver medal. Have a great rest of the time in the Olympic Village on your Paris experience, Carolyn. And can't wait to see you and your teammates the next time we have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. There's Carolyn Crossley from the silver medal winning Canadian Olympic Rugby Sevens team. Appreciate her joining us today. We would have loved to have had the video, but there's special IOC rules. But Remo, good stuff setting that up, but really cool to just to hear an athlete coming out of, such an emotional run and, kind of getting that aftermath and still the glow of those huge wins. And I mean, what a fight that they put up against New Zealand in that gold medal game.
Yeah, Rugby Sevens, I think we returned onto it in the last Olympics, and it's so exciting, so quick. It's kind of like football and soccer and rugby. We're not exposed to it a lot here, but it certainly captured our attention. The women's team getting silver. And yeah, shout out to Braden, who's a listener, messaged me on Instagram saying that works for Rugby Canada and got me in touch with Liz from Rugby Canada, and we got this all set up. So yeah, they have, I pushed for a video, but yeah, there's so many broadcast rules. You have to do a call when you're in the village or whatever. And hey, it worked out great, sounded good, and congratulations to them. So that's pretty cool that we had someone on from the Olympics. Everyone's watching it right now, and from Rugby Sevens, which was, I don't know, maybe will be one of the highlights at the end. I mean, as we're talking, Summer McIntosh just won another gold medal. So there's going to be one Olympic record gold medal. So second gold medal of the Olympics. I think first Canadian to do 2 gold medals in swimming. It's all happening right away. They had Simone Biles, which just won gold in all-around gymnastics, and now CBC showing the swimming. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of highlights at the end of the Olympics, so we're going to have to rank them all. But I think Rugby Sevens certainly up there for the first weekend. Like, there's so much time left. We haven't even started track and field, which gets underway, I believe, tomorrow.
Yeah, usually the first week is sort of dominated by the big swimming events, and then they switch it over to the athletics, and you get down to the quarterfinals and semis of some of the team events. As we mentioned, yesterday, just while we're on the Olympics here for a second before Ken jumps on with us, amazing win by Team Canada yesterday. I mean, we were on the air for the first half. It was zeros when we went into CFL 110. Vanessa Gilles does it again. Big header, Canada. You cannot kill them. 6-point penalty, whatever, no problem. Our women are 3-0, and they're moving on to the next round, taking on Germany, where they will be an underdog in that game. But certainly as far as the quarterfinal matchups, the closest one via the odds. And that continues to be one of the biggest stories in and around the Olympics. The fallout from the drone incident, what that did to the players that had nothing to do with it, and then them persevering through, running the table in a very, very tough group and still being around. So that quarterfinal is going to be happening on Saturday. You got that big men's basketball game tomorrow, but a couple of other sports are really getting into it. Our guy Felix Auger-Aliassime, Remo, big win today over Casper Ruud to get into the semifinals of singles. And Felix has the opportunity for more hardware because he and Gabby Dabrowski actually are playing in the semis of mixed doubles as well. So we have the potential for getting some nice results on the tennis court as well. I see the Joker right now is on the verge of losing the second set to Tsitsipas of Greece, and that would send things to a third set. Still some of the top players, though, in that tennis matchup. So if you are a tennis fan, listen, you're going to see some big names go at it in the semis and the quarters and the semis. But a big shout out to Felix Auger-Aliassime for making that happen. And the Olympic golf got going today as well. Corey Connors was 3 under. Nick Taylor 1 under. The Japanese star Hideki Matsuyama, the leader of the Olympic golf right now, after day 1 play at 8 under par. Xander Schauffele, the defending gold medal champion, and of course the champion golfer of the year after his win at the Open, 2 majors this year for Xander. He is just 2 shots back of the leader, Hideki Matsuyama. So there's what's going on in the Olympics. I wish I was paying attention to that summer race. So that would be the 200 butterfly. We saw her qualify yesterday for that.
Yeah, it's okay, Huss. If you missed that one, she's going to be racing again very soon in the 4x200 freestyle relay. So another chance for a medal for Summer. But yes, that was the 200 butterfly final. And at 3 o'clock, she's racing again in the 4x200 freestyle final. So
right now, Summer has 2 gold medals and a silver medal.
Yes.
The opportunity for another medal on this relay team. I wonder if is there any other events that she's in outside of this relay?
I'm not 100%. I only know about today. We'll have to see. And she did also has set an Olympic record in the 200-meter butterfly. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of people in our chat saying, hey, she would be the early candidate for flag bearer at the end. And when they have the Rising Star Award for Canadian Athlete of the Year, whatever they change the name to, I imagine she's going to be in consideration as well.
Oh man, I mean, listen, whatever they call it now, the former Lou Marsh Award.
Yeah.
They really do focus in on Olympians in Olympic years, just because these athletes often don't get the recognition in the other years where they're not competing on the biggest stage. I think she's like minus 10,000 favorite for that award right now.
Yeah, it's a Northern Star.
The Northern Star Award
is what it's called now. I called it Rising Star. Oh, well. Hard to keep track of all these changing names, but yeah, she's going to be a favorite. But we got some other events. Damian Warner in the decathlon kicking off tomorrow. Imagine if Felix wins the two medals there in the tennis. I mean, beating Daniil Medvedev, who he had never beat in the previous round, pretty exceptional. And we still have our eyes on what Canada women's soccer as they move forward. I mean, what a story that was. Winning, hey, 6-point penalty, no problem for them, us advancing. And the basketball, Team Canada basketball on a collision course with Team USA in the final. How exciting would that be? So some great stories for Canada coming out of the Olympics here, and so another week of it.
Remo, see if you can check out what this draw is right now. Like, I'm just looking at this. So Felix beat Casper Ruud. He's on to the semis. Alcaraz beat Tommy Paul. I see Zverev lost to the Italian Musetti, and then so the other 3 are in, and then we're still waiting to see who's playing between the Joker and Stefano Tsitsipas. Olympic tennis event. Maybe they've got the draw here. Because it would be great to see. We'll accept the cookies.
I'm looking for this bracket. I don't know. The Olympic site kind of bothers me.
There's so much.
I find it hard. So here it is. Sporting News has it. I was like, it's so many ads. So Casper Ruud, and I guess the winner. I can't keep track.
Okay, it's Felix versus Alcaraz. That's what we need to know.
Okay.
Felix Auger-Aliassime versus Carlos Alcaraz. He'll be a big underdog in that one. And then Musetti versus the winner of the Joker and Tsitsipas. And then obviously the losers of that match. I wonder if they just give them bronze medals, or do they actually play they actually play a 3-4 game for the bronze. Anyways, we'll figure that out and stay on top of it. Hey, big game tonight. When you're going to Princess Auto Stadium for a Blue Bomber game, make sure you get there early and take in everything going on at the Princess Auto tailgate zone. The party gets going on before every game at 5:30, 2 hours before the game. Normally for 7:30 starts, 5:30 p.m. $5 beers, $3.50 poppin' hot dogs, inflatables for the kids. The OB pregame show is there. Lots of entertainment. It is the place to be before every Bomber game. And, of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Bombers, and Winnipeg Sports Talk, proudly founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg, with 2 locations to serve you, with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West. You can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. When you're thinking Bomber games, thinking good times, great crowd, and maybe a few drinks, and of course, Canadian Club, the #1 choice of Blue Bomber fans for years. as the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Enjoy Canadian Club throughout the stadium, along with the Beam Suntory family of products. And don't forget, anytime this summer, that Canadian Club and Ginger Ale premixed cocktail, one of the best drinks of the summer. You can pick that up at your local Manitoba liquor marts, or the next time you pop into the beer vendor, make sure to grab a few of those as well. Canadian Club, proud sponsors of WST and your Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We're loving these long weekends and weekends in general right now here in the summer, even just some holiday time. Far better to be enjoying it than spending all that time building a fence. If you've got fence needs, go to Wallace & Wallace, the experts in the game since 1946. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter's done a number on your old one, give them a call. They've got vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And of course, if you need a new garage door, they've also got Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors as well. Give them a call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Road off of Kenniston. And of course, guys, it is wedding season as well. If you're going to one or planning, just looking ahead to the fall, and you look into your closet and realize you need to up your menswear game, get on down to F Apparel at 190 Smith Street downtown. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. 15% discount for wedding parties. So if you're having a wedding or in a wedding party, make sure to talk to the guys at F about a 15% discount when the fellas get their suits for the big day at F Apparel. And they can use them long beyond the big day. Again, 190 Smith Street downtown. Make an appointment for a fitting or find out more online at F. That's EPHapparel.com. All right, let's get Kenny in here. We got Olympics to talk about. The Bombers, the Jets. How are you? What's going on?
Andrew, good afternoon. Happy August to you. Great to be with you as always. A little bit more on the sporting calendar this week. Been a little bit quiet prior to this, but Olympics, I know you just touched on it in your segment. Big week on the Olympics front there. Even some Manitoba flavor with Tyler Mislawchuk finishing 9th yesterday in the triathlon, battling through the polluted waters of the Seine River, but still a great showing from Tyler there. We know the Mislawchuk family well, and a proud moment for them for sure. And we were texting yesterday. I like to leave the soccer analysis to those who know the sport better than I do, but pretty gutsy effort from Canada. Watched the majority of that match on the pitch, and they just found a way to get it done despite numerous obstacles with the dash 6. It's not like golf, Huss. Starting at dash 6, not a very favorable position. Setting up an excellent quarterfinal now with Germany, and could be a collision course for Canada USA if the cards fall a certain way on the weekend here.
Well, listen, it would be a dream match semifinal against the United States in women's soccer. We've got our dream match in men's basketball, which would be a gold medal match against the United States. Still a lot of work to be done, but it's fun. I don't know if you caught it. We just had Carolyn Crossley on from the Canadian Rugby Sevens team.
Oh, very good.
Won the silver medal. Did you catch any of the Rugby Sevens? Like, that sport is phenomenal. And I swear, Piper Logan from Team Canada, if she's looking at doing something else, she's like Janarian Grant fast. You might be able to get a returning job for her in the CFL if she wants to expand her horizons outside of international rugby.
Yeah, you got to be athletic and incredibly tough to be playing rugby. Have some friends who have played the sport, and the concussions are numerous in that one, but incredible athletic achievement for sure. And in the pool, it's gone well for Summer McIntosh, obviously. And
what a phenom.
I'm a big volleyball fan, been watching there, and some great Manitoba flavor there also. Tough start for the men's team, but battled pretty hard. I didn't get to see the second game, but watched the game against Slovenia in the opener. it was a tight match back and forth. They lost in 4, but yeah, I mean, it's a fun week. I mean, too, if you like watching the GOAT in their sport, Simone Biles having another incredible showing here. Great redemption story, complete with a mic drop for a former teammate. So again, keeping the headlines flowing, us, and that's in our business. Always welcome, right? Always welcome.
Long memories from some of the girls on that team, but hey, I'm here for it all. I mean, and again, Summer has just won another gold medal in the last hour or so, and I guess we've got a relay later on to maybe add to the medal haul. I wasn't familiar with Summer McIntosh before the Olympic Games. We heard, a lot about her coming in, that she was probably our most locked in sure thing for a gold medal in something, but could have an even bigger performance. 2 golds, 1 silver, the potential of more. And Ken, 17 years old. We've seen some of these careers in swimming. Like
Penny.
She has the potential. The thing is, Penny wasn't winning gold medals like this.
True.
And certainly not when she was 17 years old. Yet she had that. She broke in at 16 and had a couple bronzes and was a great star of the game. This is that next level where not only are they getting on the podium, but winning. I mean, she she won by 6 seconds, I think, in her first event. But I have a feeling that Summer McIntosh from here on out for the better part of the next 10 years is going to be one of the most recognizable Canadian athletes. And I have a feeling Canada's going to pay a lot more attention to swimming right now, knowing that they've got a phenom like that in the pool.
Oh, and speaking of the pool, I mean, Katie Ledecky, man, just so sensational. Not even anyone, the beauty of the effort, not anyone even in the frame, right? As she's touching the wall, not anyone in the frame at all. So, just an exceptional event. I mean, the Olympics are always super fun, and I mean, the venues are just spectacular. I mean, we make some jokes about the river for triathlon, which was, unfortunate for those athletes. But man, the beach volleyball scene with the Eiffel Tower in the backdrop. I mean, man, you must be having a great time if you've made the trek out there. And yeah, just a lot of excitement on a lot of fronts. So, great to see people get wrapped up in the flag and Huss. I mean, it's been a fun week for me. Quick little teaser. I mean, I'm doing a story that will run, I think, either tomorrow or more likely Saturday in the paper of the pages of the Winnipeg Free Press. I caught up with a number of folks from that 1999 Pan Am Games baseball team that sort of took the province by storm. Caught up with Ernie Witts, the manager. Stubby Clap special. Yeah, I did finally track Stubby down last Saturday. Andy Stewart, Troy Fortin, which the local lad from Lundar, who is the primary designated hitter, and just such a fun, this is a quick stroll down memory lane for them. But I mean, it reminds us of how long we've been working in the business. That year I was a summer student and I was in charge of the Ernie Witt ejection sidebar as Paul Wiesek handled the Miracle on Grass. So super fun moment to sort of dust off some of the archives. And just a quick aside. I mean, Andy Stewart called me at 12:15 a.m. Eastern time and was on the phone for almost 45 minutes. The passion with which he spoke about an event that was a quarter century ago, just sort of is a little bit of a tie-in to what these kind of events, and that's a Pan Am Games. No offense to them, it's not the Olympics, but just a monumental moment for the program. And even speaking with Greg Hamilton, Director of Baseball Canada, just what it meant for Team Canada. That was their first medal at the Pan Am Games. They got into the Olympics in 2004 in Athens and, gave a great run there before falling short against Cuba. Just kind of one of those moments that the little engine that could kind of help take that program to new heights. And lastly, back to the Olympic front. I mean, great start for Corey Connors, 3 under today. Yes, he's 5 back of Matsuyama, but 3 under for him, 1 under for Nick Taylor, the Canadians. And again, like we talked about last week, our guy DI is there from the great Winnipegger who's down coaching those guys at the Olympics. Pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, I had a great chat with DI just a couple days before the tourney. He's filling me in on the course, how it was playing. I was trying to get a little intel before we made our best. Hey,
indeed,
I'm on our guys. The one thing about the Olympic golf, and again, I mean, take this for what it's worth. I mean, it was 4 years ago, but I mean, the Olympics are different than everything else. Xander Schauffele won.
Right.
but it was anyone's tournament. I mean, freaking Rory Sabatini won the silver medal playing for Slovakia, of all places. No idea how that worked. I think he married a Slovakian woman or something like that. And then they had the 7-way playoff, and CT Pan won the bronze medal. So
former Manitoba Open champion, CT Pan, Andrew. Yes.
That's right. So as I say, there's lots of golf left to be played. And both, I mean, Nick's 7 shots off the pace, Corey's 5 off. I mean, no one's run away with it. And listen, Hideki had a great round of 8 under. Xander's next at 6. And then, I mean, you've got some of the who's who of the best in golf right around it. So if you're able to spend all night watching golf, it's there for you, folks, and it's pretty great. Let's get. And
you touched on it, sorry, quickly. Felix, what an effort! I mean, watched a lot of that tennis match today. Also, I mean, a little bit of a thought there could have been that missed opportunity. Match point in the second set, couldn't put him away. Bounced back really nicely. So another great Canadian story there.
2 semis for Felix. He's in. He and Gabby Dabrowski in the mixed semis this afternoon as well. So we could be looking at a couple medals potentially in tennis. And if you just love high-level tennis, Auger-Aliassime representing Canada against Carlos Alcaraz is going to be must-watch. I don't have the timing on that, but if you like high-level tennis, do not miss that one. It should be great. Ken, I know you've been doing some Bombers this week. This is a tough spot for this team. They have seen more adversity in the first 8 weeks of this season than I'm willing to say they did maybe in the last 4 years. And they've been the authors of their own demise in a lot of ways, shooting themselves in the foot. But, man, you add Patty Neufeld and Drew Wolodarski to the 6-game list. They're going to need to be much better in a number of different ways to be there with a pretty intimidating opponent that's coming in tonight.
Yeah, no doubt. Huss just was down there filling in on Tuesday at the practice, the closed practice, I should say. So not a lot of intel coming out of that.
What do you do for the closed practice?
Well, you just show up for the avails, Huss. That's what you do. You don't have the binoculars at a window somewhere, and you don't have a drone.
No drone?
And there's no drone activity either. Sorry about that. We're not trying to make light of the scenario, as we know it's not funny for many. But yeah, I mean, so and even in that scenario, Huss, you got the sense. So and then you go into the room after, so you see Drew Wolodarski, and he's having trouble breathing. So it's listed as a shoulder, but based on where the hit was, it sure looks like ribs to the naked eye, right? I mean, I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV and YouTube, but. And it's actually interesting. Patrick Neufeld also kind of strolled through at one point also. And I would have guessed, I mean, I suspected, Wolodarski was going to be out, but I would have guessed. And again, you can't base anything based on someone strolling past you in the locker room, and you only get a shot of him out of the side of your eye. But he looked like he was walking around okay. But again, we know that injuries are a very kept under wraps sort of scenario, especially with Mike O'Shea's team. But Huss, honestly, it's so interesting. There's definitely urgency around this group, and I don't pretend to have my finger on the pulse. I'm not there often. Once a week, you can't get a true sense compared to the day-to-day folks. But this isn't a team in panic mode, and I'm also not suggesting for 1 second that they are sloughing off this 2-6 start. There is an innate level of confidence that these guys are going to get it figured out and turned around. And as you mentioned, Huss, with Hammer earlier this week, I mean, 400 yards of offense. The week before, all we were talking about is how the offense can't get it done, right? So yes, that didn't translate into a 30-point effort, but the offense took a step forward. The defense was outstanding and only allowing 6 points. But, special teams, even though they held Janarian Grant in tight, it was a tough week for Sergio Castillo to have an off day. So they got all these check marks in the boxes, but it didn't translate into a victory. It was a 16-14 overtime loss. So, and now what you're staring at is 2 games against the best team in the West. By the way, as if Vernon Adams hasn't been dangerous enough, he's getting Keon Hatcher back in the lineup to help bolster an already explosive offense. So, but again, just sort of back to it. Brady Oliveira, incredibly confident. Got to find a way to win. Good teams find a way to win. Right now, they're not doing that, but I still believe this is a good team. Nick Dembski, all they were talking about, foot in the ground. So much accountability from both, Oliveira and Dembski and Huss. Those were 2 of the 3 fumbles. Wolodarski the other. I mean, nobody feels worse about this than Nick Dembski. I mean, 2 weeks in a row, costly fumbles in losses, right? So, but I didn't get the sense that he was suddenly questioning his football ability. This is a very good player, and he knows what he has to do to get things back on track. But again, I mean, it's definitely a big test. Kendall Randolph, huge opportunity for the guy from Alabama. Like, new to the CFL game, but I mean, played at one of the best programs in college football, right? So I'm interested to see how he fares in his first CFL matchup, right? I mean, you always talk about next man up and opportunity. Like, this is a guy with a pretty good resume on his, coming in on his shoulder pads, if you will. So, but at the same time, Huss, if the Bombers don't at least split, if you're looking at 2-8, I know you were talking earlier this week about the crossover, man, things are getting dicey at 2-8, right? So, and if somehow the Bombers can find a way to sweep the home and home with the bye week in the middle, suddenly maybe they even pass Calgary in that stretch of time, right? I mean, that's the wild part about where the Bombers are at. And Dembski said it flat out. They acknowledge where they're at, and that's not where they want to be, but they also know they're only 1 win behind the team in front of them. And if they don't get that sorted out in the next couple of weeks here, now the crossover is almost the only opportunity for the Bombers, even though there's basically half a season left.
Well, to be honest, I mean, I don't know whether there's really much hope of crossover. You have to have a better record than the third place team in the East. Toronto's got 4 wins. Right. Ottawa has 5. I mean, you're talking about getting 3 more. It's crazy to say this, but in the second half of the season, we might be talking about that 2-point convert that Mike O'Shea went for in the Calgary game, right, as being one of the most crucial decisions that he made all season long, because by getting that 2-point convert, they win the season series by 1 point,
right,
with both teams winning on either sides. So if the Bombers can have the same record as Calgary, they will be ahead of them when it comes to it. And basically right now, I mean, Edmonton is 0-7. We're not talking about them.
Yeah, they're not in the mix, even though they're getting Mr. Ford back behind center. I mean, I don't see them, rattling off a situation where they're getting themselves back into the equation here.
No, I'm with you on that, but it should be a wild one tonight. Listen, the Bombers have a lot on their plate, and as I say, adversity unlike anything they've really seen in the last 4 years. But last year at this time, I mentioned this, they beat the hell out of BC 50-14. The 50 burger was dropped after they took it on the chin against that team earlier in the season.
Right, and in the short week, right? They took it on the chin in the short week and then responded when they came out of the bye week. So, yeah, BC coming out of the bye week, they will be prepared. But this is a massive opportunity, and a massive opportunity for Lucky Whitehead, who has been waiting patiently. He's going to provide another explosive weapon, and we know a lot of talk about Zach Collaros and the numbers not kind of lining up to what we're used to seeing in terms of those computer game numbers. It's another weapon for him. And I know that Rashid Bailey didn't show up on the doorstep here to be in the lineup, but, who knows what is next on that front. I know you talked about it on CFL 110 with Hammer as well. But it's a big opportunity for Lucky Whitehead to get himself into the game and maybe providing another weapon aside from, Dembski and Ontario Wilson in that passing game here. And Huss, we know this. The Bombers got to have Brady rolling. Brady's got to be in the, that 80 to 100 point range or a yard range. And I also think, as we saw last week against Toronto, Brady out of the backfield is a weapon that you might see a little bit more today, even though, again, closed practice. I have no intel on this, but you have to think that the Bombers are going to their bread and butter, and their bread and butter is running game, opening up the passing game.
Yeah, and are you surprised that Rashid Bailey's not back here? I mean, I'm sure that was a topic when you were around the media. I thought that he might be in the lineup in time for Saturday, and especially with Wolodarski being hurt as well, I was actually somewhat stunned that they haven't made that move on Sheed to get him back.
Yeah, bye week here too, Huss. Right? I mean, I think that I'll be surprised is if he's not in the building coming out of the bye week for the return engagement. again, I asked Nick Dembski flat out if he had been doing any recruiting, and he said he had talked to him and he knows he wants to keep playing and he'd love to see him put over the pads, but said it was up to him. He's got some decisions to make, and I would imagine one of those decisions at the top of that ledger is if he wants to come back to blue and gold land and try to get involved in the offense there too. And Huss, the other thing, we're also expecting the potential for Kenny Lawler to be coming back into the lineup for that second game against BC also, which again is creating another massive opportunity for a big, deep threat for Zach Collaros as well. So
can't get Kenny back in the lineup soon enough for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but he won't be there tonight. Lucky Whitehead will be 7:30 kickoff. All right, let's get to the Jets. We had a great conversation last week, right after Patrick Laine was off of the NHLPA list, because now obviously Columbus can legitimately talk to other teams about a move. Has anything changed in the week? Have you heard anything on the Laine? We'll kind of start there and go down a few lists. It has been, we've certainly had a fun time talking about it here, and it's gotten a lot of run in the comments and in the chat right now. But I mean, I realize a lot of the people that are most closely covering it, the insiders, are all off at cottages right now, but it has been quiet. But you'd imagine that there are a lot of conversations taking place behind the scenes right now on the future of Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, even to our friends in Columbus who are covering the Blue Jackets, there were some stories written, by Brian Hedger for sure, and I think Aaron Portzline has sort of had his finger on the pulse here also. And Don Waddell saying, like, if he wanted to provide, some or a lot of retention, the trade would already have been made, right? So I think we're sort of in staring contest land, Huss, on that front. And if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff and it talks have progressed at all, you're wanting to get Laine in at a number closer to 6. Let's just use the number of 6 for now. I mean, maybe it's 7, maybe, they'd prefer it to be 5, I'm sure. But based on where their contract situation is at, they can't absorb the 8.75 without moving a substantial contract out the door. And that's prior to even signing Cole Perfetti. So, like we said, there are some complex portions of the deal that would, provide some impediments. But and the other thing too, it's not just the Jets who'd be interested. I mean, we know that one of the natural fits. I mean, the Montreal Canadiens made a big move this week with Caden Gooley's extension coming in at that 5.5 number. Really smart move. This is a bona fide number
years?
2 defenseman. I think it was 5, but it might have been 6. I'm pretty sure it was at least 5. So, so there too. So I mean, it's an interesting time for sure. Gooley is a guy who, when healthy, has been a top pairing guy for the Canadiens. So again, it's another one of those, again, different position, whatever else, but it's another one of those markers in the bridge versus long-term debate. Sorry to turn gears. Like, my point was that Montreal would also be a team that would be goal scoring. They'd love to kick around the idea, and they probably have the salary cap space to kind of have a little bit more flexibility with someone like Laine, and Martin St. Louis would be a guy who would probably love, guy may be familiar with feeding some one-timers once in a while, would probably have some ideas for what to do with Patrick Laine if he were available. And again, there's lots of other teams looking for goal scoring. So, none of those teams have the history with Patrick Laine the Jets do, but there will be other options available. And that's probably why Don Waddell is holding tight to his, not wanting to, take on a whole bunch of retention. But again, as we get closer along, I would think that, now we're into August. Again, this could be something that drags on. Again, I don't think it's going to be like the year with the Jets when he went to Columbus, that he played the one game against Calgary, provided the overtime winner, was injured, then was traded. I don't see it kind of dragging into the season, but I also don't think it's something that has to be imminent, right? I mean, if you're Don Waddell, you're trying to maximize the asset, even though it's difficult to do so based on the salary right now. I'd be shocked if Patrick played another game for the Columbus Blue Jackets. I don't see that being a possibility, but I also don't think the trade is coming on August long weekend, Huss. We had some big news at the Thanksgiving weekend. I would think that things are going to be pretty safe in cottage country for folks who are covering sports this weekend. But again, who knows? That could all change with one phone call. But yeah, to my knowledge, I don't know that I have any. I don't have a concrete update. Other than we certainly haven't heard any denials of the interest. But again, the Jets aren't really an organization that comments on rumors either. But again, I'm comfortable in saying that I would expect the interest on both sides, I think, is legitimate. Now, where that goes to me, who is still anyone's guess, because there's other teams interested too.
Hey, let me ask you this. I mean, we've batted around the pros and cons to bridge deal, long-term extension for Cole Perfetti. We won't get into that, but if I said, Ken, let's pull the calendar out here and let's put a little pin in the date that you think a deal gets done.
Yeah.
When do you think that is? This going to be something that probably takes like right up until training camp? I mean, that has happened before with the Winnipeg Jets. Or do you think this is something that probably gets done comfortably during this month before we're even close to dropping the puck on camp?
Yeah, it's a great question. And Huss, again, when I looked back, when I did the last story, when I looked back at the history of the first rounders prior, the 10 prior, 3 of them went into training camp. And those are 3 guys who loved Winnipeg. Josh Morrissey loved Winnipeg, signed an extension on the next deal, but on the bridge deal, I think he missed at least 1 day of training camp, if not more. Kyle Connor and Patrick Laine missed almost the entirety of training camp before they got their deals done. So even though Cole Perfetti, this isn't to sound the alarm bell by any stretch. And again, he's excited about the opportunity that Scott Arniel is going to provide for him, at least based on the conversations those 2 guys have had. But again, you're digging in, Kurt Overhart is a guy who digs in for his client. So I don't know if that means it stretches into training camp, and it doesn't necessarily have to, but you have to at least acknowledge the possibility. But Huss, as you and I talked about, if you're Cole Perfetti, and even if you have any interest in trying to nail down the second line center job, I don't think it's in his best interest to not be in training camp from the beginning. It would give him the best chance to do so, which, again, to me, I don't think that Cole locks down his deal before he knows for sure if he's a centerman or a winger at the NHL level on a long-term deal, unless the money's there. So if the money's there on a long-term deal, he would consider it. But I'm still in the camp of the bridge deal. And Huss, to be honest, the one thing that I'm also curious about that we almost never discuss, a bridge deal doesn't have to be a 2-year deal. If you're Cole Perfetti, what about a 1-year deal, right? I mean, he doesn't have any arbitration rights right now. I mean, it would make more sense to go to the 2-year deal if you're the Jets. But as a player, what about going on the 1-year bridge deal? Again, negotiations aren't fun, and you'd probably like to have it locked down. But I don't know. Sometimes the bridge deal is 3 years. I think Braden Point was an example of that. But definitely curious on how it all sorts itself out. I see a strong union for those 2 sides moving forward, but I still think it's more likely to be a bridge on this next contract. But again, that could change in one phone call.
Hey, before we go, you hear anything about what the coaches got done this week? It was the big coaching,
the big summit. Yeah, the summit.
Yes, that's right.
The coaches summit with the 19 or 20 bullet points on the horizon, including, again, what most people in the media focused on was analytics and the analytics portion. No, I don't have any. I did not talk to anyone at the camp from that event yet, but I would imagine that it was a very fruitful thing. It's something Scott Arniel went through with the Washington Capitals when he was in a assistant coach there with Peter Laviolette. So I would think it's an important thing. The Manitoba Moose coaching staff also involved. So I think there's, getting on the alignment will be strong. But yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of sort of seeing where things go from there. But I would imagine they had a strong get to know you session, and would have put them in a good place and give a little homework for the coaching staff as they prepare for training camp, which hard to believe. 7 weeks. In 7 weeks, we will be discussing NHL training camps, and before that we'll be talking about the Young Stars Classic in Penticton, and one more month of sort of relative quiet, and then things will be heating up nicely here on the hockey front.
Well, I'm more than willing to wait for training camp to start and to make the most of August 1st and focus on the Bombers, but
not ready for depth charts and line combos and where's Cole Perfetti at, where's Brad Lambert at. I'm with you. Let's enjoy a little bit of CFL action for the next 6 weeks here and see where the season rolls. And
at least through the Olympics, and then we can get to stressing about all of those topics once everyone gets back to work. Have a good one. What's cooking for you in the Freep over the next few days? You mentioned that 1999 Pan Am Games article. That should be a good one coming out.
super pumped about that, and I'm actually going to be at the Downs Derby luncheon on Friday.
Of course you are. It's the best meal of
hey,
the year. It's surprising that would be the one time that you decide, maybe we'll get down on the horse racing beat.
buddy. I will also be covering the Derby. It is something you can. We always talk about checking the receipts. You can check a lot of WPG Sons for Ken Wiebe covering the Derby on the holiday Monday when most of my colleagues are out relaxing somewhere. So I will be covering the Derby Monday as well. So first time for the Freep, so that'll be fun for me.
Well, and of course they're announcing the field and everything tomorrow.
Yeah.
And yes, it is amazing the incredible attendance from Winnipeg media for the Assiniboia Downs press conferences because nobody does it up like Darren Dunn, Sherry, and the gang at ASD.
Right. You got that right. It should be a lot of fun. So fun weekend overall, and I will be in the seats this evening for the football contest as well, and definitely interested in seeing how that goes on a number of fronts.
Beauty. Observing. Well, hopefully we'll see you at the game tonight, Kenny. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yes, sir. Great to be with you and have a great chat here with John, and enjoy your long weekend when it arrives, my man.
Certainly will. Certainly will. Big thanks to Ken. You saw earlier the fan of the game at the Goldeyes game last night was enjoying a generic lager. Hey, with this long weekend here, let's do it a little early and raise a glass to the weekend. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Generic Lager, your basic lager, just better. Little Brown Jug made the taste you crave with the name that says it all with this impressively standard lager. Whether you're at a Jets game, a Goldeyes game, or watching from home, grab a cold one and cheers. Pick it up in all your Little Brown Jug favorites at Little Brown Jug in the Exchange District at 335 William Avenue, at your local LC or vendor, and of course at the ballpark and Canada Life Center as well. Another great spot to grab a generic or a 1919, especially with this beautiful weather we've got right now, is the beer can. If you're around town over these next beautiful few days and have not checked out the beer can, what are you waiting for? Got to be the nicest place to meet up with friends in the biggest and most beautiful outdoor beer garden in the city with all of your favorite local beers from Manitoba's best breweries, frozen drinks as well, and of course the incredible food from the fellas over at Cosmos, the food cantina. And as you can see, you can also enjoy the great eats from the Cosmos boys at Next Door at 116 Sherbrooke. And look at those monster sandwiches from Hoagie Boys. I don't think you could possibly pack for a beach day better than a trip to South Osborne or Hoagie Boys. You can follow all of them on Instagram for the latest events and whatnot. And but again, it is a beer can weekend right now with this weather that we've got here in southern Manitoba. Shout out to Royal Sports. Hey, if you're looking for Canada gear or, of course, Bomber gear for your next trip to Princess Auto Stadium, you got to head down to Royal Sports, the sports superstore here in Manitoba for over 40 years. Bomber gear, Jets gear, tons of Canada right around time for the Olympic Games, in addition to new NFL merchandise coming in by the day. And, hey, we got to make the most of the time outside as well. Soccer, softball, baseball, tennis, running, bikes, disc golf. They've got it all at Royal. And for you campers, pop by Royal and check out their amazing Yeti section before you hit the road. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And, of course, some great Olympic action on the tube right now. A big weekend in the Canadian Football League. If you're thinking about a great place to get out of the heat, enjoy a little AC, watch the game, you got to make it your local Boston Pizza. Nowhere better to get together with the gang for the big game than your local BP. Enjoying ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, and gourmet pizzas and more. And, of course, if you can't make it out to BP, you can always get it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's welcome in from 3 Down Nation, our pal John Hodge, getting ready for this Lions-Bombers tilt in the week in the Canadian Football League. What's up, John? How are you?
I'm doing great, Huss. Thanks for having me.
It is always a pleasure to have you on the program. Well, what do you make of the Bombers' predicament going into this one? The record isn't good. The schedule's a real tough spot. And, oh, yeah, it's the BC Lions coming in.
Yeah, this is a tough one, Hus. This is, I think, the biggest test that this club has had all season long. And I don't just say that because the matchup is tough. Obviously, the BC Lions are a great football team. They're motivated. They're coming off what I would call an embarrassing loss to the Calgary Stampeders. I mean, they went into McMahon Stadium in a game that had 23 penalties 2 weeks ago, came away with a narrow loss in that one. But they're also very well rested, right? This is a team that's coming off a bye. The Bombers are coming off a short week, right? It is not easy to play a football game on 4 days of rest. That is not enough time to really recuperate and of course, get to the practice field. Yes, the Bombers practiced once this week, but I don't think that a practice on a short week is the same, really, at the end of the day, as a practice that you might have as part of a 3 or 4 practice week, including walkthrough, during a, we'll call it, more normal schedule. So this is a tough matchup. Not only is this team 2-6, not only are they coming off a 2-game losing skid on the road, but they are playing a far more rested BC Lions team, one that is motivated. The season series is up for grabs if the Bombers lose this one. BC's already got the 1-0 advantage by virtue of their Week 3 win, and the Bombers are exhausted. So this is about as tough of a test as you could get heading into your 9th game.
We've been talking a lot with fans in the chat all week long about where they're at with the Bombers. I mean, how precarious of a situation is this team in right now? Because I will agree, I think they're better than the record is. A couple things here and there change, and we could be talking about a 4-4 or 5-3 team, but we aren't. They've got a league high 13 players on the 6-game injured list, and they've got a home and home with BC. I mean, this team has to win some football games and do it relatively soon if they want to keep the season going.
Yeah, I think you look at the schedule, and 2 games against Edmonton, I think, is a bit of a silver lining. I think 2 games against Hamilton is a little bit of a silver lining still to come. The downside of that is the team you're really competing with at this point for a playoff spot, which is the Calgary Stampeders. I think anything can happen in the CFL, but I think the ship has probably sailed on Winnipeg catching Saskatchewan, and I think the ship will probably sail tonight on them potentially catching BC. So if you're locked into that 3rd playoff spot as your target, the Bombers did a great job capturing the season series against Calgary a couple weeks ago at Princess Auto Stadium, but your margin for error is not large. And by the way, the Stampeders get to play Edmonton at least 2 more times as well. So that will even itself out in the thick of things. And I do think it's fair to say the Bombers have been unlucky this season. I think in past seasons, they've been fortunate to be among the least injured teams in the CFL. This season, they are among the worst injured teams in the league, and they have had some bad luck. You look at that PI call, the non-call last week against Nick Dembski. Yes, that should have been PI called on Deshaun Amos in coverage on the Winnipeg native receiver. You've also got situations where this team has had, Sergio Castillo, 2 missed field goals last week after being great. You've got fumbleitis all of a sudden hitting this team after weeks previous. Ball security was great. The offensive line let them down last week after I thought they'd been very much improved for a few games. So each position group is kind of finding its own time to let down. Zach Collaros was excellent last week, right? Week prior in Regina, maybe not so much. So this team lacks consistency from week to week. I think if you're looking for another silver lining, it's the fact that these games are close, right? The opening loss of the season in Montreal was 13 points. Every other loss since then has been much closer. Regina, the loss there was 10, but even then, that game was close. Ultimately, a lot of them are just literally 2-3-point games, like, for example, last week, the 2-point loss in overtime. So this team has to get a little bit more consistent. Sometimes you have to make your own luck. I think being a little more consistent is one way to do that. But at the end of the day, Huss, 2-6 is tough. 2-7 is very tough. And I think ultimately after this team had won the West Final 3 years in a row, finished atop the West Division, right now I think their ceiling, I think even an optimist would say their ceiling is 2nd. I'd argue their ceiling right now is probably 3rd.
Yeah, listen, if you told me the Bombers could find a way into 3rd, I would take it, no problem. The one thing I'll say, and to your point about just how close all of these games are, if the Bombers sneak in as a 3rd place team, they're going to be a very live dog in these games. I mean, they know what it takes to win in the playoffs. You'd think that they'd be much healthier at that point. Well, they couldn't be much less healthy than they are right now, to be perfectly honest. And I think they'd scare the bejesus out of a lot of other teams, even at home. it's getting to that point right now. And I did not have this on my bingo card that on the 1st of August, we'd be talking about how perilous this spot is right now. Because, I mean, you mentioned that you get Edmonton and Hamilton. Like, I'm not sure those teams aren't in much better shape later on in the season than they may have been in the first 6 games of the year. And everything is so close. And for the Bombers, long gone are the days where they're lighting teams up and winning by 25 every week. Everything comes down to small margins right now. And, John, what has been killing them is self-inflicted mistakes. Any theories or thoughts on why this team has been so poor on the turnover differential this year after owning it for the last 4?
I think the biggest reason they are struggling with takeaways, Huss, is their front 4. This team, by my estimation, what I've seen watching them each week, game in, game out this year, is they're almost unable to generate pressure with 4. And when you can't pressure with 4, you need to send heat in order to get that extra pressure. It did work early on. This past week against Toronto, Reddick Cramdy got home for 2 sacks. But and I'll say this too. After a shaky start to the season, they weren't great week 1 against Montreal. They were putrid week 3 against BC. I think the last month or so, Winnipeg's secondary has been arguably the best in the league. Tyrell Ford is the highest PFF grade of any cornerback. Evan Holm and Dietrich Nichols are all-stars. Terrell Bonds has been very good as a rookie for them. But this is a big, giant field, and the rules in the CFL are designed to allow receivers to run free and offenses to thrive. So you can't protect forever. The Bombers' secondary did almost last week with Nick Arbuckle and Cameron Dukes combining for, I believe it was 136 passing yards, which is absolutely abysmal. But if you're not pressuring the quarterback, you're not getting those strip sacks that are so valuable, right? We saw Jackson Jeffcoat and Willie Jefferson absolutely tear it up the last 4 or 5 years, stripping quarterbacks to the football. You're also not pressuring them into making bad throws or bad judgments. We're still getting some knockdowns from Willie Jefferson, of course, when you watch the games, but you're just not seeing that pressure on the quarterback that we have seen over the past number of years. So when you look at that, I think that defensively is the problem. Obviously, we'll see with Taiwan Garbutt making his 3rd start. Celestin Haba maybe coming back. Maybe they could start getting a little more pressure. But offensively, I think you're seeing the opposite problem, right? Zach Collaros has had the fewest Mississippis to work with this season than he has ever had in Winnipeg since arriving late in the 2019 season. And when you don't have that time as a quarterback, it throws off your rhythm. It throws everything off. And I think there have been weeks where he's handled that really well and gotten the ball out quickly. I also think there's weeks where he's maybe not handled that as well. Last week, I thought was a week he handled it very well against the Toronto Argonauts, despite Winnipeg's offensive line giving up 5 sacks. But to me, turnovers, takeaways is a pressure stat. Right now, the Bombers are giving up too much pressure on offense. They are not generating enough pressure on defense.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time for what the defense has been doing lately. I mean, to be honest, I threw this out, and I still have yet to get an answer. When the last time a team gave up 6 points in a CFL game on defense and lost, never mind doubling the other team in offense at the exact same time. And that's what was so crazy about last week's game. We could talk about O'Shea's call, which I still think was the what they should have done at that point. Get the first down, get the clock down, walk it off with a win. Sergio Castillo having his worst game of the season at the worst possible time obviously contributed to it. But, John, when your most veteran players, when your most trusted guys, Brady Oliveira, Nick Dembski, Drew Wolatarski are putting on the carpet, that sort of speaks to just how different this season has been right now. And I know they've talked about it. I tend to believe it's a bit of an aberration over these last couple of games. It better be, because this team, as presently constructed, cannot handle turning the football over on offense the way they have been and expect to win football games. And we've seen that play out so far.
Yeah, and I chalk it up largely to aberration. The one thing I will say is I do think Nick Dembski has to do a better job of protecting the football. I know he spoke to the media earlier this week and said, maybe I have to sacrifice some yards after the catch to be a little bit more secure at the ball. And I went and looked at the stats, Huss. Now, the previous non-quarterback leader, all-time career in the CFL among active players before this season was Andrew Harris. I'm talking about lost fumbles. Andrew Harris lost 30 fumbles over the course of his long tenured and high workload career. The active leader in the CFL right now among non-quarterbacks in fumbles lost is Nick Dembski with 9, and he has 3 more than any other player by my count. I believe the next ranked player is Brady Oliveira, tied with a couple of other guys. So obviously, fumbles lost is generally a running back stat because they get so many touches. For Nick Dembski, this is a problem he's had his entire career. I don't think he's a terrible fumbler, right? He's been in the league for 9 years. That's an average of 1 fumble lost per season. But the reality is the last 2 weeks, he's lost 2 fumbles, and he's lost them in the fourth quarter, and he's lost them in opponent territory, directly taking points off the board. That
off
is
of big plays.
That's like the worst combination that you could possibly have. So I do think that with Nick Dembski, there's a little bit of a history. I do think that he needs to do a better job of protecting the football. Last week, I actually thought wasn't so bad. The week prior in Regina, he had the ball all the way out there, and I don't think that was a tough play for Jameer Thurman to make when he crept up on him and stripped him of the football. Last week, I thought the positioning was better, but regardless, I think the coaching staff needs to work with Nick Dembski a little bit and say, hey, listen, we love what you can do after the catch, but we cannot risk these types of plays. If you got to get down, whatever you got to do it, because we can't have these fumbles killing us later.
It's funny. We have directly opposite views of those fumbles by Dembski. Like I think of the Saskatchewan one, and I said as much on the show. I thought that was just one of the simply best defensive plays I've seen in a long time. Like where he grabbed him on the left side of his shoulder, like as if he was there. So he moves the ball over to this side and comes in with that perfect punch. I mean, and listen, sometimes great players make great plays and you got to deal with it. I was more disappointed the second week after that had happened for it to happen again. Bottom line is they all count. They've all been very, very painful for the Bombers, and it's all contributed to where they are today. What are your expectations for Lucky Whitehead, who's back in the lineup tonight in his second time around here in the Peg?
Well, I mean, I think Lucky is hungry. I think Lucky is gregarious. I mean, he's easy to like. I don't want to be the one to piddle on the parade, so to speak, but I do want to remind fans, and this is going to be in my column tonight, Lucky Whitehead was a backup at the end of last season with the BC Lions. He was also on the bench when Winnipeg made their Grey Cup run in 2019. Like, this is a guy who has, I think everybody remembers 2021, right, when he tore the league to shreds. He actually got hurt that season, missed some time in a 14-game campaign, still was an all-star, still was incredible, unstoppable with the BC Lions that year. Are we going to get that from him at age 32? I'm not sure. I'd imagine there are going to be some signs of rust, though he has been practicing the last several weeks. At the end of the day, though, I don't think the Bombers need him to go out there and be a 150-yard, 2-touchdown guy. I think they just need to have him take the top off the defense even a little bit, right? They don't really have that deep threat. Like Ontario Wilson, I think, has done a decent job of showing up the last few weeks as a deep threat. But, Dalton Schoen is a deep threat. Kenny Lawler is a deep threat. Drew Olatarski, not a deep threat. They need to get a little more speed into that receiving core. I think that Lucky Whitehead does bring that. They just need ball security. They need veteran prowess, knowing where to sit in the zone, right? When you're facing zone, when you're facing match defense, which is what the BC Lions largely play, which is kind of a variation of the two, man and zone. But we'll see. Like, again, I don't think they need him to come out and be 2021 Lucky Whitehead. I think they just need him to be a savvy vet, right? This is a unit with the top 3 receivers out, or at least 3 of their normal 5 starting receivers out. And we'll see what he does. I mean, he's got fresh legs. That usually helps, right? Trey Ford was sensational this past game in the final 10 minutes against Hamilton. I'm not taking anything away from Trey Ford. I think Trey Ford is sensational. But part of that, what we saw, was him having fresh legs against a bunch of guys who were tired at the end of a game. Well, Lucky Whitehead has not played a game of football since, I think, October, because he was in a backup role, at least at the end of last season. So we'll see. He doesn't have to be great. He just has to be good.
I really thought that we were more likely to see Rasheed Bailey in the Bombers lineup this week than Lucky Whitehead. Any thoughts on that? And did you think he'll end up here at some point, maybe through the bye week?
I mean, we'll see. I talked to Bailey's agent ahead of Winnipeg's last game against Toronto, and he confirmed that he had a meeting booked with Kyle Walters. And since then, I haven't heard anything back. And I will say this, Mike O'Shea, when the team has made additions previously this season, whether it's guys like Aaron Grimes, whether it was Tony Jones who came over from Edmonton, whether it was Bailey Feltmate, who came out of retirement to sign with the team early. I don't think Mike O'Shea wants guys getting announced the day before a game. I think he wants signings to come in after the fact because he doesn't want his guys to lose focus, which I appreciate. That being said, I was also surprised when Rasheed Bailey didn't sign. When I was looking through the stats at Nick Dembski's fumbles, I noticed that Rasheed Bailey has a big giant goose egg beside his name, meaning he has never fumbled, right? He is as much of a possession receiver as you could want in the CFL. No, he's not going to take the top off of the defense, but if Drew Wolitarsky is out, I can't think of a better person to slot in there as a gritty, physical possession receiver who will block his face off to help open things up in the run game. Not saying Lucky Whitehead's not good to slot in there, because again, I do think that this team needs help in the speed department, taking the top off opposing defenses, but I think there's a chance Bailey could be back still. I, just like you, I'm surprised he's not back. I will also say, I don't think there's going to be a huge market across the league for Rasheed Bailey. Not to say he's not a good player, but, like the American receiver spots are kind of full across the country. There's not a ton of injuries at that position outside of Winnipeg. So I can't imagine that Rasheed Bailey's looking to go elsewhere, or that there's been a swarm of offers and he's picking through, because that's another thing, Huss. These teams don't have any money, right? The Canadian Football League, these teams spend their budgets in February, not in August. In August, they're tapped out. If you're getting signed middle of the season, you're getting signed for close to league minimum. The only possible exception to that might be teams who sometimes will hash out some of their salary cap in the hopes that one of their NFL guys comes back. For instance, when the Calgary Stampeders lost Alex Singleton to the NFL in 2019, we know John Huffnagel kept an Alex Singleton-sized hole in his cap to potentially add the all-star middle linebacker back into the fold had he been released. Now, of course, Singleton did end up sticking initially in the practice roster, then going to the active roster with the Eagles. But the point is, I don't think the market for Bailey is going to be huge league-wide. He's not going to make boatloads of money regardless of where he goes. I am also surprised it's not Winnipeg. Could it still happen? I think so. We'll have to wait and see.
John, great stuff as always. Lots of love for you in the chat as well. Continuing to become one of the more popular CFL guests we have. Fill people in on what you've got cooking after the game over at 3 Down and throughout this week for the CFL.
I'm glad people like my content. I've always just coasted on my looks my whole life, but I appreciate it when people say that I sound smart. Well, tonight, obviously, I'll have my post-game column from the Bomber game, Bombers-Lions, taking people inside the locker room post-game. And then we've, of course, got our weekly awards. We've got the best and worst. We've got all of the power rankings, all of the fun stuff, betting information, picks, and all the latest news constantly there. And then, of course, we've got our pod every week. Me, JC, and Justin tearing it up on the CFL every Wednesday with the 3 Down Nation podcast. So feel free to check us out there. You can also follow me on Instagram. I remember to post like 3 times a year, but you'll enjoy those 3 posts.
John, have a great one and enjoy the weekend, pal.
Cheers, guys. Anytime.
There's John Hodge. You can follow him on Twitter at John D. Hodge and check out all of his work over at 3downnation.com. The Bombers aren't the only team that's at home this weekend. The Goldeyes are playing some great baseball right now. They're knocking on the door of first place after this big turnaround on the season. The weather's beautiful. Now is the best time of the year to get out to Blue Cross Field, take in the sights and sounds of professional baseball, and of course, all the delicious food and drink available at Blue Cross Park. The homestand continues through August long weekend. Goldeyes.com for tickets. And, of course, you can go call 982-BASE as well to order over the phone. A big shout-out to the place that I'm going to be over the next few days, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Cannot wait to get up there on the weekend. And shout-out to Connor for hanging in for me with Remis for a couple days. Aikens Lake is a world-class, once-in-a-lifetime fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg after a short flight. And as incredible as the world-class fishing is, the world-class hospitality of the Turan family and the Aikens Lake team is even better. I pledge to put some great pictures up of the fish that we take out and the good times that we're having. But the best way to check out what's up at Aikens Lake is go to aikenslake.com. You can find out more information on any remaining availability for the 2024 season. And of course, now booking well into 2025. Follow them on Instagram and on X. And I hope to show up on the feed over the course of the weekend with with a master angler that I'll be telling fish tales about for many, many years. Again, Aikens Lake on all your social platforms and aikenslake.com for more information. As we talked with Ken, live racing is back Monday and Tuesday. We'll get back to Wednesday racing later on in August, but Monday is the Manitoba Derby, the biggest race of the year. Finish off the August long weekend with thousands of your closest friends, the best horses on the track, and the biggest race of the year. The Derby goes Monday night. We're back at it Monday and Tuesday next week for live racing. And then we'll get back to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday racing for the remainder of the year. All information on Assiniboia Downs is waiting for you at assiniboiadowns.com. Free parking, free admission. It is a great time, and not Monday, as I said, the biggest day of the year. A big shout out to our friends at Breezy Bend Golf and Country Club for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk as well, and all of our golf reports here on WST. If you're looking for a long-term home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, make it Breezy Bend. Give a call to the clubhouse and talk to our pal Corey Johnson, the great GM of Breezy, on membership options for the 2025 golf season. You can also check them out online at breezybend.ca for more information on the facilities as well as wedding rental options. All right, let's get Remis back in here. Very quickly, why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray? And I know we're stressing about the Bombers right now in the game, but I would love to know at this point of the Olympics, what has been the highlight of the Olympic Games for you so far? Let us know in the chat for the Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. I still think, I mean, for me, it's the Canadian women's soccer comeback against France that stands out. I think my favorite sport so far has been rugby sevens, which has been amazing. And obviously the athlete of the game so far, I think, is Summer McIntosh. What about you, Reem? What has been your favorite part of the Olympics so far a weekend?
Watching Tyler Mislachuk finish the triathlon in 9th place and immediately vomit all over the floor. Those triathletes, I saw the shortened replay yesterday on CBC. They did a great job recapping everything. And those athletes, it was so hot there. They were all just like so gassed, so done. That is a guy who left it all out on the line for his country, for himself after all the training. It was top 10 in the world, so shout out to Tyler. The top moment of my household is going to be Simone Biles taking the gold medal, just now women's all around. You know, had to withdraw from the last Olympics with the twisties, where she couldn't, figure out where she was in the air. And there's a lot of criticism, had to go through a lot of mental training, but came back with the oldest gymnast on Team USA, put on the GOAT necklace, Huss, after today's gold medal win, two-time gold medal winner in the women's all-around gymnastics. It's a highlight for me as well. And everything with this, the basketball, we'll see how that turns out. But the basketball right now, seeing Canada back at the Olympics with all the NBA superstars. Awesome to see, because they hadn't been in the Olympics in basketball, men's basketball, since 2000.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I see Felix and Gabby dropped their first set, and they're down 3-0 in the second. So not sure whether we'll be playing for gold in the mixed doubles tennis right now. We'll keep an eye on that. Listen, we're going to get to the cool bet lines. We got a WST parlay for the Bomber game tonight. We put together one for the CFL this weekend as well. But Remo, one of the things that we should get to is kind of a big story around, and it's been a huge story around hockey, really since we were in Vegas, as to where was Jeff Merrick. Jeff Merrick was part of the broadcast on Friday night, and then literally had not been heard from for a number of weeks, up until I believe he did a tweet last week. And Merrick's a guy that, is, great for interacting with people on social media, a beloved broadcaster and a big, big part of, everything that Sportsnet has done, as the co-host of the very popular 32 Thoughts podcast with Elliot Friedman. And it had been a little bit of a mystery as to what was up with Jeff Merrick. We found out that last weekend that Jeff Merrick no longer at Sportsnet, which was shocking, I think, to most after being there, I believe, well over a decade. I think 13, 14 years he had been there, and really had increased his profile to a spot beyond, anywhere that it had been before. 32 Thoughts. He did 2 hours a day on Sportsnet radio and television with the Jeff Merrick Show, which, to be honest, was appointment listening for me before we went live with the Lock Shop and WST every day. But we found out today clarity on why this happened. Katie Strang and Dan Robson in The Athletic getting to the bottom of it. And it seems as though Merrick was tipping off picks in the draft to some associates of his, friends. And I think this was more just for like insider cred. So guys could go on Twitter saying, I think this is what the pick is going to be. The broadcasters get the information early so they can set the graphics up and everything like that. And this caught the ire of the gaming authority, I believe, in Las Vegas, which took it to the National Hockey League and dealt with this very, very quickly. I know when people saw the report that it was draft related and you think Vegas, you're thinking maybe some sordid stuff. That wasn't the case. I'm still kind of shocked that it ended up with Jeff Merrick losing his job at Sportsnet. It obviously was something the NHL felt very strongly about, but kind of got a little bit of clarity as to what happened with Jeff.
Yeah, that was the big story when you learned that he was no longer with Sportsnet. After you said 13 years, he started at Fan 590. He hosted a wrestling show. I remember him on the iDesk on
Love
CBC.
that wrestling show. Shout out to the Law.
Yeah. And it was a shocker, as you said. Appointment viewing, 32 Thoughts. We came up with a lot of news stories, rumors from listening to Elliot with Jeff on 32 Thoughts or his own program. And yeah, Merrick had become under, this was a great report in The Athletic by Katie Strang and Dan Robson, really getting to the bottom of this, saying Merrick had come under scrutiny from the NHL during the round for allegedly revealing to a friend which players or teams were drafting moments before. So, because he's a part of the rights holder Sportsnet, when they do the draft broadcast, the broadcast team is tipped off on who is going to be selected, so they can get graphics ready, they can get cameras ready. That's how they got the Ducks pick with saying like "holy shit" or after he got picked third overall. So the NHL was like, well, we're in Vegas, we got to share these concerns here about pick tipping off with the Nevada Gaming Control Board. No one commented, Sportsnet, Merrick, or the control board. And it came out, Jeff's friends with Mark Seidel. He does North American Central Scouting. We've had him on here as a guest of the program. And you go through Seidel's tweets. He's actually deleted a couple where he correctly predicted a lot of the picks, which prompted concerns. So Merrick, he didn't stick around Vegas that weekend, he left after, and before he left, an official from the NHL wanted to speak with him. And this is where the league is concerned about, using insider information for financial gain, as you can bet on the picks. However, at the time those picks were, alleged to have been shared, you couldn't make any wagers. The round had already started. Those are off the board. And I guess it's just there's worried, hey, you have insider information because you're a part of the rights holder. You can't have someone sharing this proprietary information with others. And the NHL had to step in and say they didn't want Jeff on the broadcast, put him in a tough position. That's why, people are chatting or asking, saying, Bob McKenzie tweets out picks all the time. Frank Saravalli, he revealed the whole expansion draft before it happened. Those guys aren't part of insider, broadcast meetings with the NHL. They're doing it with their own sources. I think the NHL sees that differently than saying, hey, Sportsnet is paying the NHL big money for these broadcast rights. You can't have someone who's getting this inside information tipping off others. I'm actually really shocked and kind of disappointed it's led to dismissal, as Jeff Merrick is so beloved. Yeah. There's been such an outpouring of support. It's crazy that this led to, like, you thought maybe he did something, use a Paul Maurice term, sinister in Las Vegas, or it was a budget cut issue because we've seen Sportsnet do so many layoffs, but this is something seemingly so minor. No one was harmed to dismiss
it's
the
not
guy.
minor to the NHL, obviously, and certainly to the Vegas. And, as you get more in bed and embrace sports betting from a National Hockey League perspective as a benefit to you, there are guidelines that they take very seriously. And, certainly if you are, on the host broadcaster, you're getting information that others don't have. There is a very clear confidentiality clause in the contracts that was invoked here. I'm with you, though. I thought maybe they could have suspended him for a while, let it be known that this can't happen again, and have him come back right now, but that isn't the case. I'm really interested into what's next for Merrick, because his following has grown massively in the last decade. I saw Waiters mention that he really thought that he would be, probably taking over for Ron McLean, in a prominent, even more prominent Hockey Night in Canada role that he already had. But that won't be the case. There is talk. TSN, certainly. I don't know how much longer Gino Reda is going to be doing That's Hockey, but Jeff Merrick would instantly give a boost to that. And TSN has a great hockey panel right now. They don't have the games. But maybe he does something independent. I think they're, obviously, with what, an example of what we've done here, making a go of it and doing real well. Like, what might he be able to do on his own? I can tell you that if the Jeff Merrick podcast, whatever it was, dropped right now, it would immediately go up to the top of the charts. Everyone would subscribe. Everyone would be checking it out. So he does have some big options, but it really is just too bad because Jeff Merrick's such a well-liked individual. You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone without a good word to say about Jeff. And, he's going to be making a big transition in what he's been doing the last little while, but I think he's still going to have a big voice in the hockey space.
Yeah, I'm curious what's next. And we don't know a lot of the circumstances. Maybe he was given a warning about this because if you go back, or the Athletic notes, if you go back to other draft years, Mark Seidel had tipped off some picks or strongly insinuated that he knew it was going to happen. And maybe, he'd been warned and did it, or, we don't know if it was a one strike and you're out type of deal. But I agree. What's next for Jeff? He seems to have a lot of support. 32 Thoughts podcast, very big. That's going to continue. Elliot will have. Who's going to be the new
Merrick with Jeff? With Elliot? I mean, that's it. You want to talk about a primo spot?
Yes.
To drop into now, big shoes to fill, and kind of maybe a bit of an uncomfortable situation, but still be a great opportunity from a sports media side. Whoever gets that chair alongside Elliot.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And what are they going to do with his midday show as well? And yeah, TSN, do they scoop him up? They don't really have anything on the midday on 1050. That would give them a huge boost if they had him and then Overdrive after. Do they want to spend money on that? And
well, good question.
I think
I can tell you the answer.
I think we know the answer. But yeah, what's next for Jeff and what's next for the Sportsnet broadcast? And again, I think too bad it had to end this way. I think it shows you how seriously they take having concerns about insider trading in regards to gambling, but it doesn't seem like any of that was done here, according to the report in The Athletic. But maybe no one commented on anything. They asked Sportsnet, they asked Jeff, they asked Elliot, they asked Mark Seidel.
All of this.
They're not saying, but that was the first question. It was YYZ Sports Media, Jonah Siegel on Twitter reporting last week. It was very cryptic. He's out for draft-related reasons, and your first thought is what? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas?
What happened on Friday night after the end of the first round?
But what happened was he went home. That was what happened. So I don't know. You kind of hear it as a fan. You're like, that's it. He revealed the picks. Woj reveals the whole draft for the NBA before it happens, but it's because he was part of the rights holder and had access to proprietary information in Vegas. And you can bet on the draft, although you couldn't bet on it at the time the picks were revealed. Obviously, some concerns there about knowing information and sharing it maybe when you're not supposed to.
Yes, the world of insiders. Just so you know, when you see a guy nailing everything, He's getting it fed from somewhere. These aren't just great thoughts or takes, and a guy somehow managed to go 15 for 15 in the first round of the NHL draft. Hey, shout out to Tedley too, or Tedley. Super chat. The Transcona Sports Network is predicting a Bomber victory tonight. Right on, Ted. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the super chat, and I hope you were right. Let's get to the cool bet lines. Speaking of that game tonight, and we move over to the Canadian Football League, and it has been, man, we'd have to go back a long time, Remis, to find the Bombers as 4.5-point home underdogs and plus 163 to win on the money line. But that is exactly where we are. The money line really hasn't changed much from yesterday. The point spread, though, has. And, for a game that was in and around 3.5, now 4.5. And we've mentioned many of the reasons why the Lions are favored tonight. But this is a very unusual spot for the Bombers to be in, both by record and looking at the cool bet lines for a home game.
Yeah, I had to submit my picks for the EST contest where I'm leading right now, where I'm the only person. I'm the only person who's got more wins than losses in the EST Pick'em contest, spread contest for CFL. Not to Barry Horowitz myself too much.
It was such a scam 4-0 last week. I should have been 4-0.
I was 4-0 last week, so I'm taking it. I've been on the Bombers pretty much every time except for last week. I have a hard time picking them here. I'm sure they could win. Although I think the spread in that one was 2.5. 4.5 is a bit bigger, but they're just in such a tough spot. I'm sure they could, find a way to hold on to the football and score points. But we've seen teams, the short week and the BC coming off the bye, that's what scares me. It's nothing about the two teams. If it was like an even week, I could see it being, a very close game. But you've seen teams play on Thursdays the last couple weeks. Guys get injured. They don't play the same. It's just such a good spot for BC. They're in tough, man. The Bombers looking ahead to the bye the week after. I'm concerned. I think they can still win, but if I had to pick, I'm picking BC.
Yeah, I'm going to take the points with the Bombers. If anything, we've seen them play very, very close games, and I know BC could have put up points at the end of the last meeting. They ended up just going into victory formation. But again, even in a game that the Bombers gave up 500 yards in the last minute of the game, it was a 2-point game. So I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt for the Bombers to find a way to be in this game. It will take the points. But, man, it is a tough ask for the Bombers right now in the state of their roster, and as we mentioned with this schedule. Alouettes and Tiger Cats, this game actually has dropped. This had been up to 5. It's now 4 because Cody Fajardo's not starting. It is going to be Davis Alexander. Cody's going on to the 1-game injured list. So he is close to returning, but he won't return yet. I like the Ticats in this one. And I mentioned plus 180 on the when we were on the lock shop. Now plus 165 for Hamilton in game 2. The Elks and Rough Riders have been steady. 5.5 points for Saskatchewan all week long. Trey Ford getting the start. Edmonton plus 200 on the money line. The Riders minus 250. And then the final game of the week. This opened at 1 or 1.5 and is now 3.5. The Calgary Stampeders favored by more than a field goal at home against the Toronto Argonauts at a minus 189. Now, we did put together a couple of exclusives. Lock Shop Partner Parlay. We're taking the Ticats at plus 5.5. So you're getting an extra 1.5 there for the Ticats. We've boosted the Elks to plus 7.5. I actually wanted to take the Riders at minus 5.5. Dusty's on the Elks, so is Iwanek. So I said, let's get it onto the other side of a touchdown, and we'll put that in. So Elks plus 7.5. And then we've got the Stampeders at minus 1.5. Field goal seems a little too much for this. Calgary's always playing close games. We'll need them to cover too. So that is boosted up to plus 375. And had to put together a WST parlay for the game tonight. Here's what we've got. Zach Collaros to pass for 260 or more passing yards. Brady Oliveira to go over 100 yards rushing and receiving combined. And the Bombers to cover the spread. at plus 4.5. That is in there at plus 350. And right now, with the guys that are in and out of the lineup, it's so hard to predict touchdown scorers. The one thing I think we can count on is Zach Collaros is going to have to throw the ball a lot tonight. I think he'll do well. Brady Oliveira is going to be a big part of the offense. We'll throw him in. He's combined for 100 plus in the last 3 games comfortably. And then the big question, whether the Bombers can be there at the end and win the game or at least cover 4.5.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. What happens there with the Bombers? If you think they're gonna cover, I mean that's certainly the path. Brady he's been their rock. He's been the guy that they've been handing the ball off to. And Zach, I think 260 is a very manageable number for him. So if the Bombers are gonna cover, these things would happen. So I do like this parlay. I think it's certainly attainable.
The Collaros passing total, if you're just looking at that, is 271.
Yeah.
And Brady's rushing total on its own is 69.5 at minus 110 on either side. As far as the receptions, I was looking to see who. Yeah, I mean, the only guys listed right now are Ontario Wilson and Nick Dembski. Both of them over 4.5 is that number. And I'd imagine Ontario Wilson will continue to see a lot of balls. I mean, until Kenny Lawler's back, without Dalton Schoen, and of course without Kenny Lawler, and now without Drew Wolodarski, Ontario Wilson's going to be leaned on even more maybe than he has in the past. Maybe not outside of the Calgary game, where he seemingly got half the balls in the game thrown to him. It's all up at Coolbet right now. You've got that. Olympic soccer odds are out for the quarterfinals. Saturday at noon. Book it off. Canada, Germany. Canada's plus 215 to win. Germany plus 117 and a draw plus 275. You can check out everything. Olympic golf, Olympic soccer. Let's see, do we have the updated men's golf futures right now? Yes, after round 1 with Xander Schauffele just 2 shots off the lead, Xander is the favorite at plus 315. Scotty Scheffler at plus 425. And there's Hideki Matsuyama at plus 650. Corey Connors is at 50 to 1 right now. He's at minus 3, 5 shots back. And then, as we mentioned, Nick Taylor is at 1 under par right now. Those individuals at 1 under have massive numbers. I'm just trying to find Nick Taylor here. He would be in and around the 100. Am I missing him? And Taylor, here we are, 750 to 1 if you want a big turnaround for Nick. But cheering on our Canadians. Golf odds, basketball. Our Canada team plays Spain tomorrow, 10:15 a.m. And Canada's 9.5-point favorites in that game. And minus 435 on the money line. Paris, CFL. Oh, by the way, CFL, don't forget, this is sort of this next week is your last week. If you are betting on the Canadian Football League, screen cap your bet. Send us an email at contest@winnipegsportstalk.com. And you could qualify for a marble in our marble race in a couple weeks for a trip for 2 on the 1930 Crew bus tour to Regina for the Labor Day Classic. Great stuff today. Really fun talking to Caroline from the rugby team. Of course, Ken's always fun to have the program. John had a great hit heading into this game, and now I'm actually going to be away for a couple days, but the Wonder Kid, Connor Rabchak's going to be jumping in with Remis tomorrow and on Tuesday, and I'll be back Wednesday, hopefully with some incredible tales of glory on the water at Aikens Lake. But what a way to get into. I know a lot of people will be taking tomorrow off, Reem, and what a way to get into the long weekend with a gorgeous night tonight and a hell of a matchup at Princess Auto Stadium.
Yeah, it's going to be a great night for some football. I saw they already had over 30,000 sold. I see people in chat. I think Ludacris also in town tonight at the arena, and the Goldeyes in action too. So you already were Goldeyes fan of the game. Can you be Aikens Lake angler of the long weekend? Hopefully
That is the goal.
Some big pictures. We need to get some likes. Our IG content's been kind of slow this past week, so if we can get a picture of you with some massive fish.
Yes.
So many likes. I can just see it coming. We need more likes.
I think, you know what, and listen, if I get a really big fish, that could also double as a profile picture on many dating sites. I think there's a lot of big fish guys, big fish pictures out there, impressing the ladies on the other side of your Tinder or your Bumble profile or whatever it is. So anyways, I'm looking forward to it, and you know, I'll save this for tomorrow and let you guys do it. But if you're at the game tonight, keep an eye out for our pal Connor, who might just possibly be being recognized for something tonight. I think a big day for the young guy. We'll let him tell you about it tomorrow. But keep an eye out for Connor at the game tonight down at Princess Auto Stadium. So I will be off for a couple days, but Remo and Connor will be taking the ship into the weekend on tomorrow's program and on Tuesday as I travel back from Aikens Lake. Enjoy the Olympic Games throughout the weekend. Enjoy the Bomber game tonight. The Goldeyes games at the park all weekend long. And shout out to Connor and Remo for holding it down. And huge thanks to all of our sponsors as well. Don't forget, CFL 110, new episode is up. If you haven't caught it already, check it out on YouTube or search CFL 110 wherever you get your favorite podcasts. That's going to be do it for us. I'll try and bring some koozies to the game tonight. So if you see me at the game, say, Huss, you got any koozies on you? And I will hopefully be able to take care of you. They've been a big hit so far, certainly with the weather we've had for some of these gorgeous games. Should be an awesome crowd tonight. Cannot wait to see many of you down there. And I'll look forward to seeing you back here on Wednesday. In the meantime, join Michael and Connor tomorrow, 1 p.m. Big Friday edition coming out of tonight's game. Marble race, and special guest tomorrow. Maybe the greatest strongman in the history of the world. Magnus Vermagnuson, as he gets ready for his big event on Saturday at the Gimli Icelandic Festival. So tomorrow, 1 p.m. it's on. I'll see you Wednesday. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.